Welcome to another episode of Tales from the Motherland. Today we will be visiting Tanzania in Eastern Africa to listen to the creation story of the Nyamwenzi people. Long ago, before the earth was filled with the life we know today, there existed a great being named Shida Matunda. He was not just a man but the creator of all things. From the tips of his fingers flowed rivers, and from the breath of his mouth, the winds swept across the plains. With a single thought, he called into existence the earth, and from his hands he crafted the plants, animals, and mountains. Shida Matunda marveled at the beauty of his creation, but something was missing. It was still incomplete. So, after shaping the world, he decided to create two human beings to share in the life of the earth. From the soil of the fertile land and the cool waters of the river, he molded two women, perfect in their forms and radiant in their beauty. He took them as his wives, and together they lived in harmony with the world he had made. The two women were happy, but there was a clear favorite. One wife, with her gentle heart and kind spirit, captured Shida Matunda's affection. She had a warmth about her, and her laughter filled the air like music. The other wife, though also beautiful, was often overcome with jealousy, for she could see how her husband adored the first wife above all others. But soon tragedy struck. Shida Matunda's beloved wife fell ill, and despite his divine powers, she passed from the world of the living. Shida Matunda was heartbroken. He could not bear to let her go entirely. So he decided to bury her in the very house they had shared, deep in the center of the forest. Every day he went to her grave, watering the earth with sacred water from a nearby spring. His hope was simple, that from her grave life might return, for Shida Matunda believed that death was not the end, and that even the dead could rise again. Day after day he poured the water onto her grave. Weeks passed, and eventually something extraordinary happened. A small, delicate plant began to grow from the ground where his beloved lay. Its leaves were a brilliant green, and its stems reached upward toward the sky, as if the spirit of his wife was finding its way back to the world. Shida Matunda was filled with joy. "Life returns," he whispered to himself. "She will rise again, just as the plants grow after the rain." But his joy was not shared by his second wife, who watched all of this with growing envy. She could not understand why, even in death, the favorite wife still commanded so much of Shida Matunda's heart. The more the plant grew, the more her jealousy festered. She began to hate the small green sprout that symbolized her co-wife's possible resurrection. And so, her mind turned to darkness. One day, while Shida Matunda was away, she could no longer contain her jealousy. Driven by bitterness, she took a hoe and crept into the house where her husband's hopes lay growing. With a single swift strike, she cut down the plant. The moment the blade met the tender stem, something terrible happened. From the ground, instead of sap, blood poured forth, dark and thick, filling the house and staining the earth. The second wife stood frozen, realizing what she had done. She had not just destroyed the plant, but she had severed the life force of her co-wife, the one destined to return. The blood flowed until it seemed the earth itself was weeping. When Shida Matunda returned and saw the pool of blood, his heart sank. He knew instantly what had happened. His face, usually serene and full of wisdom, was overcome with grief and anger. "You have done a terrible thing," he said to the second wife, his voice trembling with sorrow. "In your jealousy, you have not only killed your co-wife, but you have brought a curse upon this world." The second wife trembled, her eyes filled with regret, but it was too late. The damage had been done. Shida Matunda looked at the blood-soaked ground and declared, "Because of your actions, Death will now come to all things, plants, animals, and humans. No longer will the dead rise again so easily. All must now suffer the finality of death. Tears welled in Shida Matunda's eyes as he spoke these words, sealing the fate of the world. From that moment on, death became a part of life's cycle. It touched everything. The trees that once stood tall would wither. Animals would grow old and die, and humans, too, would face the same fate. But despite the curse, life continued. From Shida Matunda and the surviving wife came new generations of humans. And though they were bound by death, they carried within them the same spirit of resilience that Shida Matunda had shown. They learned to cherish life, for they now knew it was fleeting. And so the story of Shida Matunda became a lesson passed down through the ages, a reminder of the dangers of jealousy and the fragile balance of life and death. Though death had entered the world, life, too, was a gift, one that should never be taken for granted. If you enjoyed this story, like, share, and subscribe to Tales from the Motherland for more interesting stories from across Africa.